welcome back to another episode of BRob Inspired. I couldn't be more excited about our episode today. I'm going to introduce our guest, Austin Hatch. We're going to learn about his story, learn about his future, what he's doing right now, how he's inspiring others across the country. And I'll give a short interlude after we introduce Austin to share with you how special this episode is for me in particular today. So Austin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. It's interesting. Your name has been on my mind for many, many years. I'm a huge college basketball fan, and I'm sitting there with my wife and we're watching SportsCenter, and all of a sudden they cut to SC's story. And they tell this story about Austin Hatch. And I'm watching your story unfold. I'm sitting there with my wife, super inspirational, and literally shared with her, I was like, at some moment, I'm going to meet this guy. Mm-hmm. I was so moved by what has happened and transpired in your life. Not only that, but how you've chose to rise up, be the man that you are today, take your inspiration and faith out to the marketplace, right, and share your story. So I thought that was unbelievable that we have got connected many years later. This was pre-podcast, before this was even a thought. And I'm just honored you're here and super excited to visit with you and catch up today.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate your kind words. And as you alluded to, what happened to me has given me a unique opportunity to inspire people and add value. And I kind of feel like what happened is what it is. You can go one of two ways. You can either hold it in and, just grieve about it, feel sorry for yourself, or you can share the story with other people and hopefully inspire them and keep moving forward. And the thing about it for me, I'm doing this to help others. And hopefully it does. It helps me a lot too, so.
Well, I appreciate that. I know I had lost my father, and same similar experience you described as far as bottling it up, sharing it. I know because of our relationship and how close we were, it's almost therapeutic to talk about it and relive exciting times and go down the other path that you talked about instead of bottling it all up. For those of our viewers that don't know Austin's story, why don't you share with us kind of the trials and tribulations you experienced, as an 8-year-old, and then again later in life that kind of led you to where you're at right now and the passion that you have for doing what you do and delivering the message you have.
Yeah, so I first and foremost, I was born to an incredible family in Fort Wayne, Indiana. My mom was an incredible homemaker. My dad was a doctor, had amazing siblings. Lindsay was 3 years older than me, and my little brother Ian was 3 years younger. Okay. And just had an amazing life, the kind of childhood most kids dream of, right?
Yep.
So my grandparents had a home in northern Michigan. When we were up there celebrating their 40th anniversary. And we were flying back home to Indiana, where we lived in Fort Wayne. And as we were preparing to land, tragically the airplane crashed and burst into flames and took the life of my mom, Julie, who was 38 at the time, my dad's high school sweetheart, sister Lindsay, who was 11, about to turn 12 a week later, and then little brother Ian, who was only 5. Incomprehensible loss, right? It's really the only word I can use to describe it, incomprehensible.
Yeah.
But my dad and I found a way to press on, and you don't get through that, right? But as you alluded to, right, with your father, I mean, you don't get through it, but you just kind of learn to live with it. It is what it is, tragically, and my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you, man. Likewise.
But yeah, so we just find a way to keep living in the midst of that. I don't know how my dad did it. I mean, I'm married now, and I think he did it for me, to kind of set an example that I never knew would be so important, right? So life was good. We kind of kept living in the midst of the loss. I mean, my dad was remarried to a lovely woman named Kimberly, had 3 kids of her own. Great blended family. Restored some normalcy in my life for sure. Not the same, obviously, but restored some normalcy. And I was working pretty hard on my basketball skills on the court. We began to have some success. And Coach Beeline from Michigan offered me a scholarship to play for him June 15, 2011. It was always my dream to play for Michigan, so my mom went to school. We had season football tickets growing up. I mean, I think I went to sleep to the fight song at night, right? So, the victors, hail to the victors, for any of the viewers who don't know.
That's awesome.
I hope to have a great career at Michigan. And Coach Beeline and I, had already developed a good friendship, good bond. But then tragically 9 days later, we were flying to northern Michigan, this time the same place we were returning from 8 years earlier. And the airplane tragically crashed and claimed the life of my dad and second mom. And almost killed me as well, put me in a coma for 2 months. And had a long list of injuries: traumatic brain injury, punctured lungs, broken ribs, I think five or six broken ribs, fractured clavicles.
Wow.
Hematomas in my leg, a lot of bad stuff. I don't even know the whole list of injuries. I mean, I think I saw the kind of the report, not autopsy, but
your charts,
the charts. Yeah, the charts when you get admitted to the hospital. Here's everything that this guy's got. Yeah, it was long, but by the grace of God, I came out of the coma and had a long road to recovery. Learned how to walk and talk and basically do everything. But I feel like it's giving me a great opportunity too. Because like we said, you can bottle that up, feel sorry for, I didn't deserve this. Anybody on the call who's listening, who's going through something, you don't deserve it. I didn't deserve it. You didn't deserve to lose your dad. But it's life.
Yeah.
And if what happened to me is what it is, I can't change it. Why wouldn't I turn the negative into a positive by how I choose to respond and how I can use it to bless other people? So.
And I think that in and of itself, that message, when I saw that on SportsCenter, that's inspiring. Like what you're doing is absolutely inspiring. Bring me back to, you're 8 years old and that happens. What were some of the things that your dad modeled for you? What were some of the conversations where he's like, hey, Austin, these are the circumstances we are dealt with, but now you must what? How did he portray to you at 8 years old? We've got to move on.
Well, he didn't tell me. He never told me you have to do this way. You have to live this way. You have to do your homework. You have to work hard in basketball. You have to, right? He just kind of set the expectation. Like, okay, if this is what you want to achieve, here's what you're gonna have to do. Your choice, right? And so it's like. And the example that he set for me, just keep living. He got back to practicing medicine, got back to doing triathlons and doing stuff like that. And so he just rose to the occasion, right? That's really what I think that's the best way to say it. You just rise to the occasion, and didn't tell me, hey, Austin, look what I'm doing, man, because you need to follow my example. He didn't do that.
He just walked the walk.
He just did it.
Just did it.
And I think in life today, whether it's it's for a family or whoever, there's always people watching, even when you don't really think they are. People notice everything, and obviously little kids more so. But we can all set an example for people, and rather than tell them, here's how I think you should do this, here's how I think you should respond to that. Why don't we just respond in the way that we hope other people do?
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Incomprehensible that there was another tragedy that happened. Rewind prior to that, you're living every little boy's dream. Mm-hmm. You love the University of Michigan. You're working your tail off, I imagine, to hone your skills. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you got some unbelievable highlights of, you balling out and doing an unbelievable job, and then you get full ride scholarship to Michigan to play hoops. Mm-hmm. After the second tragedy happened, and I hope that you watch the video of Austin to really understand the magnitude of what happened to this young man, what happened in his recovery, and how significant that was. And again, I'm just so impressed with you, man, with your outlook on life, your attitude, and walking your life by design after these things happen to you. But 8 years old the first time, how old were you the second
16.
time? Okay, 16 years old. What does a 16-year-old think at this point? Incomprehensible what's happened. All your dreams are probably crushed at your footsteps. Simple things, tying your shoe, right? Mm-hmm. Eating without assistance. I'm sure some of the, I can't even imagine, Austin. I can't. It's hard for me to even understand. So what was that? What was that like? And then I'd love to talk with you about your faith, mm-hmm. and maybe that played a key role
for sure
in helping you get beyond that as a young man at 16 years mm-hmm. old. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, after the second plane crash, when I came out of the coma, by the grace of God, nothing else. By the grace of God, I came out of the coma and was starting at square one again, right? Couldn't feed myself, couldn't walk, couldn't do anything. And my dad always said, as I was going through, my training to get better at basketball and hopefully, have a chance to play in college and schoolwork or whatever it was, My dad always said, go big or go home, man. Go big or go home. You owe it to yourself to not go halfway.
Yeah.
Go big or go home. And like my recovery, I don't know how, I didn't know how good of a recovery I could make. I had no idea. I had no idea what the ceiling was. Just like, okay, I'm just gonna go big. Like, why wouldn't I, right? Like, I don't think any of us really know the ceiling for ourselves. For obviously, you know, maybe that's relative, but like I probably would never be Usain Bolt. If I trained as hard as I could to be a sprinter, I would never be Usain Bolt. But right, like if you're working to achieve a goal, just go big. Just keep going big until like you stop. Like I don't know, until you stop progressing, stop improving.
Just relentless.
Just get after it. Yeah, and so that was my mindset in the recovery. So my traumatic brain injury was a really bad one. So TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, are measured on a scale of 1 to 7. 7 being the worst. Levels 1, 2, and 3 have a pretty good chance of, returning to relatively normal life, regaining your independence. You can take care of yourself, live life on normal terms, right? Levels 4, 5, 6, and 7 have decreasingly smaller chances. And my TBI, the docs who took care of me said it was the worst TBI they'd ever seen that came out of a coma. The worst, level 7.
So you were level 7.
I was level 7. Like I was like worst of the worst. And my goal was, okay, well, I'm gonna do everything I can to make the greatest recovery from a level 7 TBI that's ever been made in the history of the world. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. That's just my goal, right? Like, go big or go home. Like, if you go big, I'm not gonna say that the results are gonna guaranteed to take care of themselves, but I feel like there's a pretty good chance. Yeah. So, yeah, I had a really bad TBI, but it gave me a great opportunity too. Because, you can't make a great recovery from a TBI if you don't have a TBI.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for it.
Right.
But it's the hand I was dealt, so.
And here we are.
Here we are.
So 2 things with that. One, how did that play into your relationship with Coach at Michigan? And second part of that question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, hey, BRob, I'm a 10. I can do anything I've ever done before, physically, mentally. Where do you fall on that scale? Are you an 8 and striving to get towards a 10, or is it, no, man, I'm an 8, it's always going to be 8, or no, I made it. I took these circumstances, and I'm a 10. I went relentless, go big, go home. So what are those 2 things for you?
Yeah, so I think I think I'm a 10 differently. If prior to the accident I was a 10, for the sake of argument, I had to get a lot better at basketball, but just for the sake of argument, say I was a 10.
Yeah.
If you're using my current basketball ability to my ability pre-accident, I'm probably like a 2 or a 3.
Okay.
I could dunk. I could score 40. I scored 1 point in 4 years at Michigan.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I told you this on one of our pre-calls. I'm in the record books at Michigan. I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete.
Love it, man.
Program
go
history.
big or go home.
Go big or go home. There will never be a full scholarship athlete for 4 years that scores less than 1 point. It probably won't happen.
I love it.
Well, but hey, I was blessed to be there, and
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So with that, how did Michigan treat you? Here that you're a star, prized recruit coming in, full ride. Tragedy happens. What was your relationship with Coach? What was your experience freshman, sophomore, junior year, senior year? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Coach Beeline, as I was saying, before, 2 greatest men in my life ever, my dad and Coach Beeline. And one of the things I talk about when I speak, and I'll talk about to your team tomorrow, is the fact that he followed through in his commitment to me. So we committed to each other June 15th, 2011. Commitment's a 2-way street, right? I commit to him, he offers me a scholarship, I commit, he commits to have me on the team.
Yeah.
The second plane crash happened 9 days later, almost killed me. He comes to visit me in the hospital in late August, early September of 2011. I'm in a wheelchair. I can't walk. And I can't really do anything. I have people like feeding me. I got people I'm
unbelievable.
I'm incapable of doing anything. And he said, Oss, I can't wait to have you on my team someday, man. I can't wait to have you on my team. Whenever you're able to come to Michigan, I can't wait to coach you. Here's a guy that's recruited the likes of Tim Hardaway Jr., Trey Burke, Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert, DJ Wilson, Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner. Like, these guys are pros.
Yeah.
They're pros playing in the NBA. Like they're in the top 500 best players in the entire world. Right? And he tells the kid that can't walk that he can't wait to coach him someday. The level of integrity, the follow through and his commitment, despite the change in circumstance, right? If we can all do that, if we can all have our follow through, and if everybody can, I'm not saying if everybody can be John Beilein. He's got, he got flaws. Everybody does, but like that alone,
yeah,
the follow through on your commitment, despite a drastic change in circumstance.
yeah.
He offered me a scholarship to thinking I'd be able to help a team win on the court. Scoring, rebounding, playing defense, things like that. My injuries prevented me from playing at a high level, but his follow through and his commitment didn't waver though. So
integrity.
Just incredible. Just incredible. One of the, I hope if my wife and I, if someday our kids want to go play in college or are able to, I really hope they go play for a guy like John Beilein.
Yeah.
So the kind of kid that I feel like as a dad, I think the reason my dad was sold on him was just because you can see the character, you can see the integrity. You meet him, shake his hand one time, right? You know those people, and it's just like it's a winner.
Instantaneously.
Instantaneous.
How's faith played a role in your life with all this? I mean, I'll go back to where we started, the two paths that you can take. The path of least resistance is to be angry. Mm-hmm. And why me? Why these circumstances?
Mm-hmm.
Not the path you chose.
Yeah.
Did faith have a role
why not
in
me
that?
though?
Yeah.
Right?
True.
Yeah, and it's I think from a faith standpoint, it's I think James 1:12 says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life the Lord has promised to those who love him." Maybe misquoting that a little bit, but it's something like that, I think. Like, if you persevere, it doesn't say, things might work out for you. You might, the ball,
get better.
The ball might bounce your way. It says you're going to be blessed. What more can we ask for? Right? Then to be blessed. And not to say that I hope my life is proof of that, but everybody faces challenges. Everybody faces trials. We face a couple big ones. And we persevered, we pressed on, and I'm more blessed today than could have ever imagined. I mean, my wife is amazing, and
now tell me about her. How'd you guys meet?
Yeah, so
Did you outkick your coverage?
First things first. Yeah, I think, Brian, I don't know about you. I think I might have actually redefined the term. I might have redefined the term outkick my coverage, but yeah. So she walked into political science class late one day, and was looking for a seat. I'm just, from playing sports, you were taught to be good teammates, right? And she was looking for a seat, and I knew who she was. She was like an All-American Bible player, really, really good. And I flagged her down to come sit next to me, and she took the bait, fortunately, and we hit it off, and didn't pay much attention to the lecture that day, probably should have, but yeah, we hit it off and started dating a few weeks later, and after we graduated, got married, and just amazing. And the amazing thing about this is, my wife's dad is big into Michigan recruiting.
Really?
He grew up in Ann Arbor. His dad, Abby's grandpa, was a professor in the School of Engineering at Michigan. So my wife's dad grew up in Ann Arbor, and
so the plot thickens.
So the plot thickens a little bit, and so he follows Michigan recruiting very closely. When I committed, he went down to my sister's bedroom and hey, check out this guy Austin Hatch. He just committed to the basketball team. I think he's gonna be really good for us. It should be exciting. He's a couple years away, but looks promising, and she said, "Oh, cool, cool. It should be fun." But then 9 days later, my father-in-law, my wife's dad, went back down to Abby's room and was like, "Hey, remember that guy that I showed you last week who committed to play at Michigan?" And Abby's like, "Yeah." And he and his family just got in a plane crash, and he might not make it through the night. We just got to pray for him and his family. And right then and there, they didn't know me, but they just prayed for me. And how crazy is that? So after that day, after June 24th, we met a little over 3 years later, three years and 3 months later, fall of 2014, and we hit it off, and she's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. So
That's phenomenal. I love stories like that, and they don't happen at random.
no, yeah, she's my. Our kids hit the lottery with having her as their mom. I don't know what happened to as their dad. Maybe not, but definitely having her as their mom, they hit the lottery.
Yeah.
So
That's incredible. If somebody's facing adversity right now, if you're facing adversity, could be on a grandiose scale, which Austin had to deal with. Could be anything. What advice would you give that person right now, regardless of the magnitude of what they're going through? What would Austin Hatch tell that person?
First of all, I'm sorry for what anybody is going through. Anybody on the call with COVID or anything else. Not to make it too simple. Mm-hmm. Set a goal and find a way. Set a goal and find a way, right? It's like, this is just for me. I commit to play at Michigan. Coach behind tells me I have Michigan in my future. Set a goal. I'm going to get to Michigan one way or another, and then just find a way, right? It's like I don't think you always have to know how we're going to overcome, how we're going to do something. Obviously, like in sports, you want to have a good game plan. We always had great scouting reports at Michigan. We always prepared very well for teams. But the other teams would always do things we didn't expect. Life's always going to do things we don't expect.
Yeah.
It's going to throw challenges our way that we didn't see coming. I mean, adapt and just find a way. And
set a goal, find a way.
Set a goal, find a way. And not to boil it down to too simply, but it's like, yeah, okay. I want to get to Michigan. I'm coming out of a coma right now. I can't walk. I can't get the tissues over there to blow my nose. I got to have somebody bring them to me because I can't walk 10 feet, right? But the coach of University of Michigan just came to see me and said, hey, you're playing for me. Whenever you're able to, like, one way or another, you're going to play for me. Well, if I can't get the tissues, I can't go play for him. So I got to figure out how to go get the tissues and eventually learn how to, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
That's unbelievable.
Set a goal, find a way.
So the word that comes to my mind is grit, and I know that's an important word in your life. Can you explain why?
Yeah, so I think more than anything, to achieve any goal we set for ourselves, for business, family, whatever, not to say that my opinion on this is the right one, but I think it's going to take some grit to achieve anything. Organizationally, familially, athletically.
Yeah.
Right? Your ability can only take you so far. It can only take you so far. And hopefully you have ability combined with grit. But I would rather have grit than have ability. So, especially because no one's immune to challenges. No one's going to be above any challenge. We're all going to face adversity. But I think if we have some grit, I think we'll find a way. Like I said, set a goal, find a way. So my friend Angela Duckworth at University of Pennsylvania, may have heard of her, or some people on the call or listening to this may have. University of Pennsylvania, Wharton professor, really smart lady. Not Michigan, but Wharton's pretty solid, right? Wharton's pretty solid. So she says that grit is passion and perseverance for the long-term vision, for long-term goals. That's true. I think grit does apply to the long-term, no doubt. But it also applies to every single day, in my opinion, because how can we expect to achieve the long-term goal if we're not achieving our goals and winning every single day? Michigan's a long-term goal coming from where I came from, being a coma. If I don't win every day, or at least most days, obviously you're gonna have setbacks, but if you're not taking steps day to day to get closer to achieving that long-term vision, how can you expect to? Mm-hmm. So I think grit's defined a little more specifically than just working hard for the long-term goal. So the 4 letters represent 4 key components to grit. But I believe, first and foremost, grit's driven by a greater purpose. Working for something bigger than ourselves, your faith, your family, your friends, your teammates, colleagues, the organization, right? Hopefully all of us are somewhat internally driven to be our best every day, but I think having a greater purpose is very important because that purpose, I believe, will drive us to, like I said, set a goal, find a way.
Yeah.
If we're doing it just for ourselves, it'd be nice if I achieved this, but yeah, I'm doing it just for me, so it's probably not worth the sacrifice and the effort. But if I realize I got teammates I got my family is counting on me to achieve this, or whatever it is, right? I think when you have the greater purpose, we'll always do what it takes to overcome and achieve our goals. So greater purpose drives grit. G, growth mindset. Views adversity as opportunity. I believe we can grow from anything we experience. Firmly believe it. Yeah. Not the event. Nobody grows from COVID. Nobody grows from tragedies or challenges themselves. I don't grow from the events that happened to me, obviously. But I was determined to find a way to grow from how I was forced to respond.
Yeah.
Right? And like when you lose games in sports, you don't grow from losing, but you grow from, oh, okay, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Here's what I need to work on. Mm-hmm. We lost because we got to play a better defense. Okay. We're going to really, really buckle down on our defense and get or whatever the example is. So growth mindset drives us to make the decision to be resilient. That's the R. R is the decision to be resilient. Mr. Webster, the dictionary, defines resilience as something like, the ability to bounce back to how you were before after experiencing some sort of challenge or adversity or obstacle or something like that. I don't think so, though. I don't think resilience is bouncing back to how you were before. Because after a challenge, you probably never are going to go back to exactly how you were before. Like the world's never going to go back to how it was pre-COVID. Maybe, hopefully, semi-closely, but
different.
But business will never be exactly how it was in 2013 or 2013, like whatever.
Yeah.
2018, 2019.
Changed everything.
Yeah, it won't. It will never be that way. I mean, we got this virtual stuff now. We got this. The remote thing is here to stay to some degree. So.
Which I'm thankful, by the way, we're face to face. I'm so glad that we're able to do this versus
it's different.
Virtual.
Yeah. 100%. Virtual is great. The connect makes the world smaller. Zoom's great, but you don't get the energy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a little camera for so. Resilience is finding a different way to win. The world's. I think if we would have, prepared for this challenge, if we knew this challenge was coming, I don't think the world would have done as well, or we would have thought we would have done as well as we have. Like, what are you going to do if you can't meet in person for better part of a year?
Right.
What are you going to do if...
How are you going to adjust?
How are you going to adjust? I think we've done better than many would have thought. So we found a different way to win. Still got to keep pushing to get better, but we're off to a pretty good start. So the I in grit is integrity. Of course, you all know integrity is about being honest, doing the right thing and no one's looking. Of course, that's true. But in addition, I believe integrity is about following through on our commitments, especially when there's a change in circumstance. So as we were talking about, Coach Beon offered me a scholarship when I was playing at a pretty high level. June 15th, 2011. The second plane crash happens 9 days later, almost kills me. I'm in a coma for 2 months. I'm in a wheelchair. Coach comes to visit me in the hospital. He didn't know I was ever going to walk. Nobody knew.
Yeah, level 7.
There was a chance I would be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. And this guy said, I can't wait to have you on my team someday. I can't wait to have you on my team someday. Whether you can play or not, you're coming to play for me. You're on my team. We can all do that too, right? Yeah. Like if everybody on every team that we're a part of, whether it's business, family, athletically, whatever it is, if everybody on the team knows that if we make a commitment to them, there's no doubt in their mind that we're going to follow through, regardless of circumstance, that can only help us win, right?
Yeah.
It can only help us win.
100%.
So making a commitment, though, is a very common thing. A lot of people do it. But if the follow through when circumstances change is uncommon, I believe following through on our commitments when there's a change in circumstance is doing the common things in an uncommon way.
Yeah.
Common things in an uncommon way. And the result of doing the common things in an uncommon way consistently is we're going to leave people in places better than we found them. So, last letter of grit is T. T to me is a team first mentality. Every person on every team on the planet has a role. And the role is very important. It's very important. We were talking about earlier, I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in program history at Michigan. 1 point in 4 years. But coach included me in the program, so he was giving me a role.
Yeah.
It wasn't the role that I wish I had. I would have loved to play. But since I couldn't, I felt I owed it to my team, I owed it to coach, I owed it to my teammates to make the effort to be the best I could be every day. And maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I mean, I'm human. Not every day. You're not going to bring your best every single day, but hopefully, most of the days you are. At least making the effort to. And yeah, I think if you have that team first mentality and just remember that it's not even about us really. The adversity that I'm facing, or that we're facing, yeah, it may impact us directly. But if we shift our focus from how the adversity only affects us to how we can use it as a blessing, to be a blessing to the team around us and be a blessing to other people, I'm not going to say that makes it easier to get through it, but I think that you can kind of turn negatives into positives by what you choose to focus on. Rather than, this only affects me, okay, this is tough, but I'm going to use this to bless others. I'm going to find a way to. So
I love that. Man, I know I'm going to come back to this and listen and watch and take pages and pages of notes, but the one thing that resonates that I won't forget is grit, growth, resilience, integrity, and team. Man, that's powerful stuff. I appreciate you sharing that. Last question I have for you, Austin, maybe many of you watching and listening are thinking as well, what is next for Austin Hatch?
So my wife and I are hopefully on our way to being parents someday.
Awesome.
Want to be the best dad. That's I had the greatest dad. Obviously, I'm biased, and hopefully every son or daughter feels this way. My dad was just everything that's good about humanity, everything that's good about man and fatherhood. That was my dad, and I think part of the reason I was saved was to pass on the lessons that I learned from him to hopefully someday our son or daughter. And yeah, so there's that's the trying to build this business to impact and inspire as many people as you can, one person at a time. Trying to make this big, trying to go big.
Yeah.
Right? Trying to go big in this business, but then I'm trying to go big as a dad. Well, got to go big as a husband first, though, right? So go big as a husband, go big as a dad, go big in this business. Those are the three things.
I love it. Well, I think you're well on your way, my friend.
No,
I appreciate you joining us today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Super excited. We'll get you all information to follow Austin, but really appreciate you being on here, my friend.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.